Margie Abbott, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, Chris.
The speech you've given to talk about these issues that are affecting you, your family and Tony, what made you decide to give that speech?
I think, Chris, it basically came about as an opportunity to introduce myself to the Australian people, to talk about the Abbott family life, but I think also to present another side to Tony Abbott, the man, who, as many would know, has been under attack over recent weeks. And my daughters and myself wanted to really stand up and say that this is the man we know, and it's not the man that's being portrayed in the media.
So that's what prompted you to speak out?
Yes, particularly. But as I say, also an opportunity for me to talk to the Australian people about the things that I'm interested in, the things that, if I was given the opportunity, I would really like to support and give a voice to.
What does it feel like as a woman who's been married to this man for so long and you've raised 3 daughters together?
24 years, Chris.
24 years.
And 3 beautiful daughters, that's right.
Yes, to have him attacked publicly as being, or having a problem with women, being incapable of dealing with strong women.
Well, that's right. I mean, Tony was brought up in a house with 3 strong, very capable sisters. He lives with a strong, capable woman, if I may say, and he has been a large part in raising, played a large part in raising 3 beautiful young women who are everything that we would want them to be. They are at university, they're pursuing careers, and they are the product of, a balanced, happy family.
I suppose people don't see that very often, and that's been your choice and their choice to go on with your own lives most of the time. Do you think that your husband has paid a political price for that?
Well, we made a conscious decision, Chris, when Tony went into politics, and our daughters at that stage were all under the age of 5, that I would lead a very private life, and as a result, the girls would not take part in any political campaigns. And it's been important, and I think it's been a large part of the success of our marriage, in that we've been able to keep a distance between the family life, the private man, and the politician, and we're very keen to continue that. And in 2010, with the election, the girls were old enough to make a decision to be there to support Tony, and we were very happy to do that. And as a team, as a family, we relish the opportunity. But yes, I mean, it has its downside.
But you are making that commitment now. You and your daughters are saying, as we enter an election year now, that you'll make it a family, a Team Abbott campaign?
Well, I want Australians, Chris, to know the Tony Abbott that I have known for 24 years, that my daughters that he is a man of great strength, great character. He's honest. I mean, what he says he will do. He is optimistic. I mean, I am personally, I think, the beneficiary of his energy and his optimism, and I think these are the characteristics that people need to know of, and that we, the women who have shared his life for this period of time, just take as part of the package of Tony Abbott.
He is an action man, and he is an aggressive politician. Does he in any way have a problem with women?
He doesn't have a problem with women. Tony Abbott gets women, and I think this is a point I make in my speech. I made in my speech yesterday, Chris, because he is surrounded by women. His sisters, his daughters, his chief of staff in the 19 years that he has been in politics has always been a woman. His office is predominantly staffed by women. Tony Abbott doesn't have a problem with women. And may I say, the women in Tony Abbott's life don't really have a problem with him either. So I think really, Chris, this is why I have decided to write this piece yesterday and to make the speech, is to say I want to add a bit of balance to these attacks because the man is being played, and as I say, I want to add a bit of balance to that.
Does it hurt you at all? Because isn't this by an extension a criticism of you, that you would marry and share your life with a misogynist?
Well, an alleged misogynist. Chris, yes. But this is not about me, and this is not a woe is me situation. Politics is a tough business, and I mean, this is one of the fantastic things about Tony. He always sees the upside, he always sees the potential for good and making a difference, whereas I tend to be perhaps more of a pessimist. So that has been one of the wonderful things that he's been able to share with me. But I think, as I say, I want Australians to know that the man that is being painted in the media by certain causes is not the man that I know and love, not the father of my children. And, yeah.
What about your daughters? Do you talk about it with them?
Well, they are my strength, Chris, and they are very much like their father. When I perhaps read something and get a little upset, they say to me, "It's okay, Mum. We know the truth. This is Dad is everything to us." So I take strength from them. And I think because they have only ever known a political life, I mean, Bridget, our youngest, was 1 when Tony went into politics. Louise, our eldest, was 4. Francis was in between. They've rolled with the punches as well. But I think as a result have gained a lot of strength out of that. And their father, who walks in the door, and he's not Tony Abbott the politician, he's Tony Abbott Dad. And, you know, he would, when they were younger, read them stories every night. He would do all the things that every father does, plus a little bit more because he tried to make up for the fact that he wasn't there.
I can see that you're feeling this very intensely. Are there moments, particular moments, when you or your daughters have felt that this has been brought to the fore?
Well, to be perfectly honest, Chris, I think for me as a mother, and my daughters in those years when they were growing up, they were my priority. And I made the decision at that time, and I talked about this yesterday in my speech, about, you know, wanting to be there for them because they had a father who was in public life and who was away a lot. And we, Tony and I, talked about this through those formative years, and I made the decision that I wanted to be there for our daughters.
I just wondered whether there were any particular occasions, anything has actually happened recently or in the past that had actually brought the hurt of these sorts of attacks to the fore?
Well, look, after 19 years in politics, that it comes with the territory. But I just think that this relentless attack, in terms of making claims about Tony, these are people I presume, well, these are people I know don't know Tony Abbott. Not the man that I know, not the father of my children.
You're not interested in talking about those making the attacks? You want to speak to others?
I'm not a politician, and I'm not going to make political attacks. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, it comes with the territory. But this is wrong. These attacks are wrong, and I want to add some balance to that, Chris.
Does it hurt Tony?
Tony is incredibly, incredibly resilient. And once again, that is one of the things I love about the man. He rolls with the punches. That's the nature of politics, Chris. And to be the leader of the opposition, to be any politician, there is always a downside. But he is able, he is able to deal with that. He walks in that door, and as I mentioned earlier, he's Dad and Tony, and he seems to be able to leave all of that behind, which is fantastic.
I first talked to Tony about your planned speech and doing this interview over a week ago, before all of the latest dramas have come out. But certainly some political cynics will say that you've been pushed out as a part of a political campaign here. Can you just tell us how this transpired?
Well, about 2 weeks ago, Chris, we were having a rare breakfast, a weekend breakfast, excuse me, and I don't read a lot of media and I don't listen to a lot of radio. Deliberately. But I have an antenna and I have friends, and I just, there was a sense that there was, this attack was happening. And I just said to Tony, what can I do? I don't want to sit on the sideline. And as you mentioned earlier, I mean, in a way, people are saying, how can you be married to this man? This man is everything that I could have wanted in a husband. My daughters could not want for a better father. And I need to tell Australians that.
Some people suggest that you and even your daughters should be out campaigning with Tony more. And to me, there's a paradox in that, isn't there? Because these people are suggesting, I suppose, that you've got nothing better to do.
Well, absolutely, Chris. I mean, I'm a small business operator. I'm the director of a childcare centre in Sydney. I'm caring for children every day. I'm working with over 100 families. That is an important job, and in fact this is one of my particular interests, and I talked about this yesterday in the speech, the importance of early learning, particularly the early learning of under fives, and how the first 3 years of a child's life is vital. You know, I make no apology that I'm not out there, as Tony's shadow, and he understands that perfectly, and supports me in everything that I do.
Have you allowed yourself to contemplate how all those arrangements would change should Tony become Prime Minister and you move into the Lodge or Kirribilli?
Well, a lot has to happen before then, Chris, but certainly should it come to bear, it would be a great honour and a great privilege, and yes, I mean, I have given it some thought, and children and families who are on the margins are a large part of my interest. So they are the things that I would be very happy and honoured to be able to project and support an image of.
Well, I note that you've confessed that you're a former member of the New Zealand Labor Party.
Well, I was in those, that was in the 70s, Chris, when sometimes, we did things that we perhaps later regretted, and that was one of those things. I mean, my parents are Labor voters, proud Labor voters, still Labor voters, and I briefly became a member of the New Zealand Labor Party, but I think very quickly saw the error of my ways, and I must add that was well before I met Tony, so it was under no influence of my husband.
Thank you, Margie, for your time on Saturday Agenda today. And I expect we'll see a little bit more of you in the future.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity.